Earlier today, Rabbi Miller began his remarks by talking a little bit about his Netflix queue and how he alternates between, I think it was The Big Bang Theory, Seinfeld, and something else. What was the third show? Friends. I can tell you that Seinfeld is up in my Netflix queue right now. I think it's a prerequisite of going to rabbinical school. You have to watch just about every episode through. And so today I want to share with you among one of the favorite scenes from my favorite episodes. To give you some context, George is working for the New York Yankees. He's excited. He's sitting in the locker room. And then he notices that Danny Tartabull, who at the time was one of the major sluggers on the Yankees, doesn't seem to be digging his polyester uniform. And so George, without a moment's hesitation, goes to the management and unilaterally changes the players from wearing polyester to cotton. Why? Because as George says over and over again, cotton is a much more breathable fabric, and the players will play better. After the first game, George gets rave reviews. He and Jerry cannot possibly figure out between the two of them why it is that no one else has thought to get rid of polyester uniforms and to switch to cotton. Until that is, the players take the field for the next game. Their uniforms have all shrunk in the wash, and the players lose the game. It's a funny story, and yet I can't help that this moment subtly points out a very serious, meaningful truism about what it means to live life with discomfort. Nobody likes to live their lives, and certainly none of us want to live life wearing an uncomfortable uniform. No one likes to be in an uncomfortable space. And yet when we encounter the uncomfortable, what is our first tendency? We want to rush out and buy cotton uniforms as quickly as possible to avoid that which in our lives makes us feel uncomfortable. But it is, friends, only by owning that which is uncomfortable, discussing it, and making it a part of our lives that we become better players at the game. Taking comfort, the cotton uniform way out, shrinks us down. It doesn't do us any good. Encountering discomfort teaches us to manage it, deal with it, and play better baseball. Which brings me to the parsha this week, in which we encounter the most uncomfortable law, mitzvah, in the entire Torah. It is the polyester uniform of Judaism. It is the law of sota. Sota is the halachic term that we use for an unfaithful wife, a subject by itself that should already be uncomfortable. And so now let's add to that a degrading ritual that it is unequal in its application. Folks, there is no sota equivalent for an unfaithful husband. And only a man may initiate these sota proceedings against his wife. Making things worse, Rabbi Sarah Levine points out, the sota ritual is only enacted when there are no witnesses to the unfaithfulness. Because had there been witnesses, there would have been no need for the sota proceeding. So according to the Torah, what we're really dealing with here is not an unfaithful wife, but a suspicious, jealous husband, something that the Torah fails to address in any way. By the way, there's no punishment if she's wrongfully accused for the husband. That should make us uncomfortable. And lastly, if all of that were not enough, in what is quickly becoming, by the way, the worst dayenu on the planet, the accused woman must go and drink bitter waters in front of a Kohen and publicly declare her innocence. And if she is somehow guilty, she is punished with infertility. And if she is not, then she has undergone the most humiliating, degrading ritual in the world for nothing. That should make us feel uncomfortable. What are we supposed to do with this discomfort? What are we supposed to do when we come to this moment, one of the holy 613 mitzvot? What are we supposed to do at a moment that makes us want to put on a cotton uniform and run the other way? This morning, I'd like to suggest there are two approaches. The first is to do what Chazal, our sages of blessed memory, have done for centuries, to put on a cotton uniform and ignore it. There has not been a case of sotah, to my knowledge, in thousands of years. And so the rabbis of the Talmud like to pretend that sotah isn't there. It has always been quite telling to me that if you look at sotah in the Talmud, the section that is supposed to deal with the laws of an unfaithful wife, that the tractate doesn't talk about the subject at all. It ignores the subject entirely of an unfaithful wife and goes to talk about other things. The rabbis are uncomfortable with it, just as uncomfortable as I am giving a sermon about it, just as uncomfortable as you are hearing a sermon about it today. However, I would like to suggest that there is a second approach this morning, one that tells us that we need to don those polyester uniforms, stand knee-deep in that discomfort, and use it as a springboard to teach Torah. We have to wonder how sotah and laws like it may affect our understanding of Judaism today. In large part, here's my theory I want to go with this morning. I think that what sotah reminds us is that the Torah is a book in which women are largely unseen and their voices unheard, unless it is through their relationships vis-a-vis their husbands or something terrible happens to them. Think of all of the women that you know who are mentioned in the Torah. The one in the Haftarah this morning, Eshet Manoach. Our matriarchs. Tamar, the daughter-in-law of Judah. Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. That's why I think the place that we need to go this morning and to talk about is how deeply problematic, but also, I want to say, understandable, given the legacy of sotah, the current system of marriage and divorce are in the Jewish religion. We cannot simply ignore the fact, in my opinion, that the laws that we have on the books right now developed in the absence of a woman's voice. We don't talk about it, but a Jewish wedding is really an acquisition in which his husband purchases his wife using a traditional ketubah text. Even in a modern wedding ceremony where a husband and wife exchange rings together, as a halachic conservative rabbi, I am crystal clear under the chuppah. The husband betroths his wife with the ring. The wife gives him a ring as a gift. They are not the same thing. Today in a Jewish divorce, if a wife wishes to obtain a get, a Jewish divorce from her husband, traditionally she needs to ask his permission. And if he refuses to give a get, it may be impossible for her to remarry. She becomes what's called an agunah, a chained-down woman. Some of you may know I get a New York Jewish newspaper every week. Inside, it's a very frum, Orthodox paper, I should say. And inside each edition is what's called a seruv list. Does anyone know what a seruv list is? A seruv list, seruv means to refuse somebody. And a seruv list is a list of deadbeat husbands who refuse to give their wives a Jewish divorce. And they publish that list inside of a newspaper so that he can be refused, seruv, service at local businesses as a punishment. That, in those ultra-Orthodox communities, may be the only recourse there is if a woman wants a divorce and a husband is not willing to give it. But now the flip side. What happens if a husband wants to give his wife a divorce and his wife does not want it? Even in our conservative movement, it's a non-issue. We issue what's called a get bezikoi. A get bezikoi means a get for the wife's benefit. We can serve her divorce papers in her absence, whether she wants it or not. The husband and wife can then get remarried whenever they want, and I keep it on file until she's ready to pick it up. True story. I have divorces in my office, on file, waiting for wives to come and pick them up. A wise colleague once said, "It is the job of the rabbi to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comforted." Why do we have sota? Today I believe that sota reminds us that although we should be comforted that we have come a long way since the temple, that when it comes to equality in relationships, there is something profoundly uncomfortable about the state of where we are. The Lieberman clause in a conservative wedding ketubah, or an anti-nuptial agreement in an Orthodox one, gives rabbis today permission to haul ex-husbands before a court to try to force an annulment. And those have actually been upheld in New York State and Canada by legal courts, civil courts. So these are both halachic solutions that work. But it should still bother us that in some communities, the best that can be done is a seruv list published in a newspaper, refusing and humiliating people in public as pressure to try to get them to give a divorce. There are also rabbis, and maybe soon I will join their ranks, that recognize that a traditional ketubah document isn't exactly cutting it anymore, because marriage is not an act of acquisition. We need a new halachic ketubah in which marriage is not seen as a one-sided transaction. Today, women bring their own finances into a marriage. A wife does not enter her husband's home. They build a home together. To my point, though, that I started with this morning, and with this I will conclude. This Shabbat, had we ignored sotah and not had an honest conversation about its legacy, had we read the passage quietly, as some of my colleagues have suggested, had we skipped over it, as some colleagues have suggested, we would have never had this conversation. Sota cries out to us to afflict we who have become comfortable. She challenges us to come up with halachic solutions to these and other challenges, like so many passages that cause us discomfort in the Torah. May there come a day when we read this law wearing our polyester uniforms. May on that day we find comfort, because we will all have become experts at playing the game just a little bit better. Shabbat Shalom.